Oh my God, this pork's gonna be so good.
Did you know that Cuban sandwiches were actually invented in Tampa, even though a lot of people assume that they were invented in Miami because Miami is chock full of Cubans? Hey everyone, welcome back to Human Kitchen. My name's Shane, and today I'm gonna be walking you through how to make Cuban sandwiches from scratch. So we're gonna be walking you through how to make Cuban bread. That is the vessel with which the Cuban sandwich is contained. I'll be showing you how to make the roasted pork that is typically placed on a traditional Cuban sandwich, and we'll show you how to assemble it, and we're gonna show you how to make some side dishes as well. Specifically, we will be making maduros, which are deep fried plantains, and we'll be showing you how to make arroz negros, aka Cuban style black beans. And as always, please be sure to like and subscribe for a lot more crispy cooking content. So we're gonna start off showing you how to make the roasted mojo pork. Now, if you're going to do this mojo pork recipe, I highly suggest you marinate it overnight. I already started this puppy marinating last night. It's been in the fridge all night long. I marinated it based on the recipe. I marinated it in some orange juice, some lime juice, ground cumin, and I use dried oregano. The recipe suggests you use fresh oregano, and if you can get your hands on it, definitely use fresh oregano. I couldn't find any, so I'm using dried, and minced garlic, and of course salt and pepper. We're gonna roast this pork shoulder. Pork shoulder is a very fatty, very tough cut of meat. It lends itself extremely well to slow roasting. You should be able to slide a knife or a fork straight through it, and it should just essentially just fall apart. Let's go ahead and start building our compartment of foil. So I just start off with a 9x13, about 2-inch deep roasting pan, and I kind of create like a plus sign with my foil. So we're gonna do that. We just start building our vessel. And then you can kind of crimp the sides together so you can seal it as best as you can. And believe it or not, this, if you do it right, will hold in most of the juices. Just kind of crimp this together just lightly. It doesn't have to be sealed hermetically or anything. It's never a bad idea to invest in some disposable latex gloves for handling raw meat. Don't have to wash your hands a million times, and you'll save yourself from getting food poisoning. Oh, and by the way, the recipe does, that I'm gonna link to, the Serious Heats recipe gives you the ingredients for the marinade, and it also suggests that you keep half of it to the side, and that's going to be mixed back into the roasted pork once it's done roasting. So that'll, you know, just reinvigorate it with some fresh marinade. So you don't have to worry too much about this marinade that you're leaving behind, because if you do it per the recipe, you're gonna have a bunch of extra marinade left. And if you're gonna use a pork shoulder slow roast for your Cuban sandwiches, make sure that you cut off as much of the excess fat as you can. Usually pork shoulders come with a fat cap on them, sometimes even with the skin still on the fat cap. You're definitely gonna wanna remove as much of that fat cap as you can. You're not looking to have a lot of fat left in the recipe in this roast. Okay, so we've got it in our little vessel. Now I'm going to crimp everything over to the top and make a lid out of foil and loosely seal it. Again, you don't want to seal it completely tight so that it has absolutely no circulation inside. You want to let it have some room to breathe, so that way steam can escape. But you want to try to get as decent of a seal as you can. So I just kind of fold everything over to the top and create kind of a bowl formed around the pork. Okay, it looks pretty good. And then one more sheet of foil on top. Just lightly crimping it with my fingers. You could even poke some holes in the top if you wanted to give it a little extra room, but I think it'll be fine as it is. Maybe just leave a little bit open there on the sides so steam can escape. And then we're just gonna slide that in our oven, preheated to 300 degrees, and come back in 3 hours and check on it and raise the temperature. Oh, I wanna engage you. This eyeball that's looking at me. Hello there, eyeball. How are you doing today? Are you excited to see this pork that I'm about to pull out?
Oh my god, this pork's gonna be so good.
Pork's been in the oven for probably about 4 hours now. I don't really know, I lost track of time. I got sidetracked a little bit and turned the timer off and said, it can go a little longer than 3 hours. And I think that was about an hour ago. So we're gonna pull it out now and see where it's at. I think it'll be just fine. It's a slow roast, you know, the slow and steady wins the race. I think we're gonna be good. So it's been roughly 4 hours, we'll call it, at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. We haven't touched it once. I think I said that you need to baste it as you're cooking it, not during the first leg of the cooking process. First leg of the cooking process, you wanna leave the cover on. And now we're going to remove the cover and reveal the juicy prize inside. So you can definitely tell it's got a lot more time left to cook. It's still pretty tough. If I were to stick a fork in there, try to shred it, it probably would not come apart at all. It's still a pretty solid, dense mass of muscle tissue and fat. But I see some rendered fat in there. You can get in there and see all the shiny liquid. That's the fat that's starting to melt down there in the side. Oh yeah, nice shiny fat. Some of the marinade's starting to kind of ooze out of it. I bet that's a really flavorful liquid. So we're gonna throw it back in. And every half hour, we'll take it out, dump some of the liquid back on top, make it stay nice and moist while it's cooking, rather. And we'll be good to go, hopefully in a few hours. It's been a half hour. We're gonna take a look at this pork now. Don our protective personal equipment. PPE, baby. All right. You can already tell it's starting to get a little more brown, a little more cooked. This is where it'd be nice to have a turkey baster.
Oh yeah, right. Turkey basters. Not only for turkeys.
Back in she goes. "30 more minutes. And boom, right away, we're ready for basting number 2. It's been an hour since this has been roasting at 370 or something degrees, 375. Yeah, that's what it says, right? So always remember, keep basting it. Pork doesn't like to be lonely either, folks. Don't gotta get fancy with the basting, just cover it with its juices. Okay, another half hour. Oh yeah, been roasting for 2 hours now at 375 degrees. Starting to get nice and crispy on top. Still feels a little tough on the outside. We'll see how it looks in another hour, but I'm thinking we're probably gonna need to roast this for at least a couple more hours before it is totally just falling apart like we want it. I've been roasting for a grand total of about 7 hours now. I went for about 3 hours at 375, and then I lowered it to 325 for about another hour. I checked it a minute ago, and I'm pretty sure we're done. Check out that nice brown caramelization on the top, dark brown, not too much, not burnt. You can see the bone is really starting to stick out over here on the side. That means that the meat is just shrunk up a ton. That looks to me, it's a sign that it's done. And I'm gonna try to insert a knife into the meat Oh yeah, meets absolutely no resistance. It feels like it's just ready to just fall apart. It's so easy to pull apart. This is right where you want it. It's absolutely perfect at this stage. So yep, we're gonna leave this sitting up here. Just let it rest for a little while, cool off, and come back and shred this and add the rest of our marinade that we had reserved. And then that'll be it for the pork. Let's see if this bone just slides right out. Oh, I can feel it. It's sliding. Yeah. Thing just tore right out of there. So tender. So juicy. Oh yeah. And I can't resist but to try a bite. It's so juicy.
Taste test.
It's so flavorful. And just so tender.
Yes.
That's excellent. I highly recommend slow roasted pork. Look at all that meat. It just is falling right off. It's just, it's clean. The bone is totally clean. There's nothing left. That's it. It just came right out. It's so tender. It's perfect. You can just dig in there with your fork. Just shred it up. I can't wait to eat this on a sandwich.